Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray. And folks, we are broadcasting from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you are looking for a bank that is big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them, but small enough to do it in a personal way, well, Renaissance Bank could be the bank for you. It has been for me, and I'm speaking from experience. So if that's something you're looking for, and you're looking for a better banking experience for your business, go to renaissancebank.com and find their local office and give them a call. I think you'll be glad you did. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Dr. John Webster. John is with the Roswell Health and Injury Center. Dr. Webster, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, it's great to have you. Let's talk a little bit about you and your practice. How are you serving folks out there?
Well, I'm an experienced chiropractor. I've been doing it for 38 years, and my wife keeps calculating the number of patients I've helped, and the number is over 18,000 now.
Wow.
And as far as chiropractors, the main thing we do is give adjustments to realign the spine, restore normal motion, and relieve pain. And she estimates that I've given over 750,000 adjustments in my career.
Wow.
And I'm just very, very thankful for that, and by far most patients just get great results. Every once in a while we'll have someone that doesn't respond. And I have medical providers that I refer to, neurologists, orthopedic surgeons, pain management. But overall, it's been a great life, and I'm just very happy to be a chiropractor.
Wow. What a great story. Talk about why chiropractic for you. I mean,
Okay.
What drew you into this line of work? It
was quite a surprise. As a young man, I was struck with kidney stones, and it's going to sound a little far fetched, but like Churchill said, the truth crushed to earth will rise again. So this is the truth. So I was doing electrical and plumbing work. I was out of high school, and that was my trade. I was enjoying that. I could do the wiring and plumbing on someone's home. And out of nowhere, I'm struck with kidney stones. My right kidney begins to produce kidney stones that are like sand spurs, and I can't pass them. So I find myself in the hospital twice a year, and they put me to sleep and go up in me and pull the stone out with a Bassett extraction device, which, of course, is very painful, embarrassing, and everything. And so I go to one urologist after another, and I wind up in the Medical University of Charleston, South Carolina, which is supposed to be one of the best ones. And after 3 years of their treatment, John, they said, well, you know what? Your right kidney is not working, and there's nothing else we can do about it. We're just going to keep doing this until, it stops on its own, or we have to take it out. Your left kidney's fine. It's just your right kidney is like a failure to thrive. And so, for the most part, I was healthy. And I could do anything I wanted to. I just had this chronic, constant pain in my right side and down into my groin area. Very embarrassing. And so I was talking to my dad, who was my mentor and best friend, and he said, have you thought about a chiropractor? And, John, I'm sure I laughed. What can a chiropractor do for kidney stones? Because I had no back pain. And that's a key part of the story. You can have nerve damage and not have back pain. So anyway, I go to the chiropractor. He begins to educate me on the importance of the spine and how it affects the nerves. And if the spine is damaged or twisted or jammed, it can put pressure on the nerve, and it interferes with that nerve's ability to carry impulses from the brain to whatever part it goes to. It's just like an electrician. It's like having a short in a circuit, and your dryer won't run.
Right.
So he began to explain these things to me, and he took x-rays, of course, and he began to adjust me. And after several months of chiropractic care, this relentless pain I always had in my side and down into my groin area began to disappear. My urinary function returned to normal.
Wow.
And I went back to my urologist, and they began to check me, and they said, well, we don't understand it. What's happened here? And so I mentioned chiropractic to them, and the guy, he just kind of rolled his eyes, and that's their mindset in some ways. But it's been, I just turned 67. So it's been that long, and I've not had another kidney stone since then.
Wow.
So I'm sitting in his office, and he begins to work on me. And this is another life story, but my family had never really been to college. We were farmers and trade people, blue collar workers, car mechanics, plumbers, electricians. And college was just not something we did. We did tech schools. And so he begins to work on me. John, you should be a chiropractor. It has helped you. It has changed your life, and you should go. And of course, you argue for your limitations.
Sure.
Too often.
Right.
Finally, he got through to me, and I'm sitting in his office one day, and boom, I decide, I get this amazing feeling over me that, this is my calling and this is what I should do. So I made that decision and never look back. It's been a great time.
Wow. What a great story.
Yeah.
Well, you really, that story gets at the misconceptions that people have about chiropractic, right? I mean, they think about, I was in an accident, so, I need to get my spine adjusted or whatever, right? It's real kind of personal injury oriented that I think is the way a lot of people think, right?
That's true. And if I can go back to that, I kept questioning the chiropractor, how did my spine get out of alignment? What made that vertebra twist? And he showed me which one it was. And the way he explained it is that the way it was twisted, it was affecting the nerve to my right kidney, but the nerve to my left kidney was unaffected, the way the vertebrae had twisted. And he made me think, oh man, when I was 16 years old, I was playing football with some friends of mine in the country, and we were playing in a cow pasture, no paddings at all. And the captain of the football team was on the other side, and they were killing my team. And so my ego got in the way, and I said, you know what? You're not going to make another touchdown. And so here comes this guy running at me. And at that time, I'm that big around. And he knows exactly what I'm going to do. And somehow his knee winds up in my lower back. And I go on the ground on my stomach. I can't get up. I crawl over to the edge of the field, and my parents come and get me and take me to the emergency room. And I saw I'm on crutches for a month. And then the pain goes away. So I assume I'm okay. If there's no pain, we assume we're okay.
Right.
3 years after that, I had the first kidney stone out of nowhere. Now, there's no kidney stones in my family. It is not hereditary. Nobody in my family has ever reported a kidney stone other than me. So he helped me to understand that injury, talking about injury, that injury to my spine from a sports accident twisted my vertebrae, and it took time for that nerve to get so weak that the kidney could not get the information it needed from the brain to function as it should. And that's exactly the anatomy in the human body. I can just bore you to pieces with autopsies and research that I've known and taught about how, the spine and the nervous system are intimately connected, and you cannot injure your spine without it also damaging the nervous system. And most of us take an Advil or a Tylenol or whatever, or keep on going. But that injury will show up eventually, sooner or later, perhaps in another way, like it did for me.
Right.
And so injury is so important, and there's nobody that needs a chiropractor more than somebody who has been injured. Again, there's study after study after study that, everybody fears arthritis as they get older. The leading cause of arthritis is trauma when you're younger. And trauma, I just, car accidents, I do a lot of expert testimony and jury trials. I go to court frequently because I do a lot of personal injury work. And the research is there. Trauma, like a car accident, if you don't reset that spine, realign it, rehabilitate it properly, you're going to have arthritis. The discs are going to decay. You're going to develop spurs. You're going to have pinched nerves, and you're not going to be happy.
Right.
That's just how it is.
That said, it doesn't have to be a misalignment in your spine does not have to be necessarily caused by some sort of trauma, right? Or injury. I mean, it can happen naturally in some ways, right? Do I have that right?
Well, the biggest thing that I see today is misalignment of the neck is people on their smartphones. I mean, if we're talking about bad habits,
right?
I mean, there's
hunched over.
Oh man, an ideal posture is where your ears are over your shoulder. That's how it should be. If you look at any anatomy chart, the back view and the side view of the skeleton, from the back you're supposed to be in perfect alignment. From the side, your ears should be over your shoulder, over your hip. And Hans Selye, medical doctor, got a Nobel Peace Prize, and he did the research on it. When your spine is in perfect alignment, the muscles don't work that much because you're balanced. And that means all the energy and information from the brain can service your organs and glands in the healing process. But the more your muscles take energy from your brain and nervous system, the less energy goes to the organs. And that's people who are humped over, sitting is the new smoking, they say. And the more we hump over and the more we slump forward, it affects brain function. It affects cardio and lung capacity. And again, there's all kinds of studies out there. The American, the Geriatric Society, the American Geriatrics, they focused on senior citizens. And they did 2 nationwide studies, which I have, and people with this hyperkyphosis or forward head posture, this research says that they die prematurely because of heart disease and lung disease.
Oh, wow.
So to your audience, I would say, slump over really bad right now and try to take in a deep breath. And you can't do it. Where you can sit up straight, your lungs have more room to expand. And the same thing for your heart. Your heart needs to expand to take in the blood. But if you're always compressing it, you're putting strain on your heart. So if you want to live longer and be healthier, get your spine in better alignment and keep the organs functioning better.
Dr. John Webster's with us, folks, with the Roswell Health and Injury Center. You can't see me, folks, but I've been adjusting my posture here while he's talking.
I saw that.
Straightening up over here. Let's talk. Chiropractic is no different than other medical disciplines. It changes over time, right? I mean, the research and so forth, and your methods of treatment change, right?
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
Okay, so in 1895 is when there was a guy named D.D. Palmer, and he was everybody says the first chiropractor, and this is right before X-ray. X-ray was discovered in 1895, but Dr. Palmer He was an outside the box thinker. Traditional medicine was doing what they did at that time, and he just kept thinking, the brain has got to be, the main organ, and how does the brain communicate with the body? Well, it does it through the nerves, and where are the nerves? Well, they're in the spine, and so as the story goes, he's in his office, and he was trying different methods back then, but he's in his office, and the janitor comes to clean his office that night, and the janitor's name was Harvey Lillard, and Mr. Lillard was almost deaf. You had to yell at him for him to hear you. And as the story goes, Dr. Palmer said, well, how did that happen? He says, well, I was working, I was bent over, I was in a corner, I felt something pop in my neck, and I noticed that my hearing just began to get worse and worse. And so, and again, this is one of those stories that it may sound a little far-fetched, but the facts prove it. And so, Dr. Palmer examined his neck, didn't have X-ray, but examined his neck, and he found what he called a lump in this neck area, and he touched it, and it was very painful. And so, Dr. Palmer said, well, would you mind if I just maybe tried to put it back in place gently? And the janitor said, okay, yeah, let's do it. And so he did it. And of course there was an audible, and they didn't notice anything in the beginning, but the janitor came back to him later and said, you know what? I don't know what happened, but my hearing is better. My hearing is better. So, Dr. Palmer said, well, I found a cure for hearing. And so he didn't know what he had. And so people started coming in for that. And of course, he found out, they didn't fix everybody.
Right.
And so as the research has proven, and this is the key point, because I take care of a lot of children. A lot of children have ear infections. The reason a child may have an ear infection is because their eustachian tube blocks and the fluid behind the eardrum can't drain into the back of the throat the way God made it. Well, there's a nerve that controls that eustachian tube, and that nerve is in the neck. It's the 4th cervical nerve in the neck. And if that nerve is under stress, it causes too much input into the eustachian tube. The eustachian tube is circled with muscles. And so if that muscle tightens around the tube blocks, the fluid backs up behind the ear. And of course, that's when the pediatrician will, do antibiotics or put tubes in the ears to drain the fluid out.
Right.
So back then, Dr. Palmer didn't know the anatomy behind it, but since then it's been proven absolutely a misalignment, or we call them subluxations in the neck, can affect the eustachian tube, which drains the ears. So things got started, and the people started coming in for different reasons, and he found out a lot of things he could help, neuromusculoskeletal, and of course other things we can't help. But and so in the beginning, he was fought by traditional medicine, because he was looked at as a threat. And up until 1917, chiropractors were actually put in jail for practicing chiropractic.
Really?
Because, I could tell you so many stories because I've met some of them. And I could tell you there's no other profession in the world that has had to go through so much just to serve its patients. Chiropractors have been maligned, and I could tell you the whole history of it. I don't want to take too much time on the air, but back in the 80s, 5 chiropractors sued the American Medical Association. And they sued them for, interfering with practice, because medical doctors would talk against chiropractic and medical. If you had hospital privileges as a medical doctor and you anyway affiliated with a chiropractor, you could lose your hospital privileges. And it was all organized by the leadership, the American Medical Association and its affiliates. So in 1987, Judge Susan Gitzendanner, a 7th Court District Judge in Chicago, Illinois, which is the home base for the AMA, she said, yes, the American Medical Association and its affiliates are guilty of a conspiracy. These are her words, guilty of a conspiracy to eliminate and destroy the chiropractic profession and its patients. I have the court documents.
Wow.
And so of course, the AMA and everybody appealed it. And so in 89, the appellate court agreed with the lower court. And this is sweet. In 1991, I was in North Carolina. I was in North Carolina for 25 years before we moved here. So I was the president of the North Carolina Chiropractic Association. And so that same year, the Supreme Court agreed with the appellate court that indeed the American Medical Association, for at least 25 years, has systematically done everything they could. They restricted trade for chiropractors getting paid by insurance companies. They went into teaching hospitals and nursing schools, and they said in the message that if you didn't have MD behind your name, you were a quack. And that's the message. And and I've seen that in my practice years ago. It's a funny story. You would think the educated people would have a little more open-mindedness, but I was in my practice years ago, and a local college professor, nothing against them, but he came in and at that time I had a busy practice, had multiple staff, and we played, patient education things in the office, but everybody was happy because chiropractic is, you don't come in, a lot of times in a horrible, sick way. You come in because you feel better and you want to stay feeling better. It's a wellness practice. So anyway, I talked to this professor, and he says, I don't know if I want to stay here or not. And I said, well, tell me why. He said, well, I walked in and everybody's happy, and you got these videos playing, and it almost feels like a cult. So
that's it. Those are symptoms of a cult.
Yeah, that's what that's what he said. I said, sir, well, it's not a cult. It's just a place where you can, get relief of your pain and feel good. And we have a lot of patients who come in for wellness because they want to stay healthy. It's not a cult, but I honor your wishes. And if you don't feel comfortable, then you certainly don't have to stay. And he left. And but yeah, I've had. I just don't want to go into a lot of negative stuff. But over the years, a lot of medical doctors have said a lot of negative things. But it's proven. It's gotten better. Currently in my practice here, I love my practice here. I have medical doctors that are patients. I have medical doctors that refer to me, and I, of course, refer to him. So all that stuff is in the past. We all had to learn.
Right.
And chiropractors have done some crazy things, and I know that. There's every profession has its fringes.
Oh, sure.
And it seems like, if one chiropractor messes up, it's all over national news, but it doesn't seem like the medical profession is held accountable like we are, but that's okay too. We're a growing profession, but it's getting better every day because of information and sharing knowledge, and the patients are the ones that benefit, and that's what we want.
Well, the fringes always get the publicity, that's for sure. Folks, we're here chatting with Dr. John Webster. He is with Roswell Health and Injury Center. So let's talk about some of the problems, some of the conditions that chiropractic can address.
Well, I think everybody knows that chiropractic is good for low back pain, and that's been the most researched topic. And as far as research go, for years we heard that chiropractic wasn't scientific. I could fill this room with research papers that have been printed in mainstream medical journals that chiropractic is safe and effective, and usually gets people back to work at half the cost. And it's a tremendous savings. And really, those studies are out there, but you're up against big business and power and control. But the biggest reason people visit me probably is low back pain. And you have the disc in between the vertebrae. You originally have 33 vertebrae, some of them fused. So right now sitting there, you have 24 that are still moving. And those 24 have a disc, well, maybe except for the first one, but you have these discs, which are the cushions and the pads. And your L5 is the very bottom one in your back. And that's where most people have trouble, is their lower back. 51% of your body weight sits on the L5 disc. So if you can imagine that. And so I said before, sitting, whenever you're sitting on something constantly, the pressure from your upper body continues to press on the disc, and the disc can lose some of its contents. People have bulging disc, slip disc, herniated disc, protruded disc, prolapse disc, all those fancy words that different radiologists use. So that's where the most of it comes from. And they come to me, and a lot of times they have waited until it got bad, and so they've lost some of their spacing of the disc. And disc, in one sense, is like an eraser on a pencil. If you let your disc go too far, it doesn't come back. And so there are times when a person has to have surgery or injections at least. But in most cases, when they come in, I'll notice that the space has gotten close together, and then it's also gotten misaligned. And we also do a good case history, like my chiropractor did on me. What do you think you did? Tell me about any previous car accidents. Tell me about any kind of falls you've had. And almost everybody's had some kind of injury they want to, tell me about. And not every time, but often it's related to their current problem. And pressure on a nerve in your back, not just back pain, but it affects your legs. The muscle tone of your legs, the strength of your legs is affected by the nerve supply in your back. As a man and as a female, our reproductive organs have their nerve supply in the lower back. Your bladder control, your bowel system, all of that is affected in your lower back. I mean, there's a surgical emergency would be like if you have a true ruptured disc and it hits the certain nerves in your back, you lose control of your bowels. So that's the ultimate example of how important your lower back is to your bathroom.
Wow.
Yeah. So you want to, and people come to me and they come in for back pain. And then in the course of time, we find out, doc, I used to have this problem, used to have that problem. And since it's been coming in, it's gotten better. So the number one reason is lower back. Number two, I guess, would be headaches, headaches, neck pain. And again, we're going to see this more and more. Headaches and neck pain, because the more we look at a computer and the more our head goes forward, the more strain and stress on these muscles in the back of the neck, and you're going to have muscle spasms and tightness, and then a lot of people are going to have numbness and tingling in their hands. Nobody doesn't seem to understand, if my hands are numb or tingly, and I check my blood flow, and my blood flow is good, like my hands are pink and warm, it's got to be pressure on a nerve in my neck. Numbness and tingling is pressure on a nerve, whether it's in your hands or your lower back. So we see a lot of that. And we see people, again, they don't come in when they should, and by the time I get to them, they have a certain level of degeneration, arthritis, spur formations. And so we always give them, a program of care. We cater it to everybody's special needs. I give people a ton of homework, I call it. I'll give you stretches. I'll give you exercises. I'll coach you on your nutrition, hydration. Another key point is hydration. We don't drink nearly as much water as we need. Your body is 73% water. 73% water. I'm glad you're taking a drink while I'm saying this. 73% water. And your skin evaporates water all the time. Every time you breathe out, you lose water. Going to the restroom, you lose water. And how do we replace it? With coffee or energy drink or something like that. And what your body cries for is water. Your disc need that water. A lot of people have disc degeneration because they don't drink enough water, and gravity pushes the moisture out of the disc. I've had a lot of people get great results just by increasing their water intake. And so the one goal that I give to patients, and I'm not saying everybody can do it, but it's a good goal, and you should drink 1/2 ounce of water for every pound you weigh every day. So I'm sitting here at 180, and so I drink 90 ounces of water a day. And some people say, well, that's just too much water. I'll spend time in the bathroom. Well, you may in the beginning, but once you notice a change, like in the afternoon, a lot of people get an energy drop and they would reach for coffee or energy drink.
Right.
Drink a big glass of water. You're losing your energy because you're dehydrated, and you need it for muscle contraction, nerve conduction, food digestion, and overall mental health. And I know I'm going on and on and on here. Yeah. Let me just touch one more point while I'm on water. Okay. Brain conditions, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, all those brain conditions, one common thing they have is inflammation of the brain tissue. Now, why would the brain tissue get inflamed? Because it's dehydrated. Why is it dehydrated? Because most people don't drink enough water. And as we get older, our taste buds are not as sharp as they were, and water has no taste. And so that's why people buy all the flavor stuff. But if you buy a liquid that has dyes or stuff in it, most likely it dehydrates you, and you need to drink water behind it to replace it. So yeah, if you have that kind of stuff in your family, you really ought to look at your hydration and start drinking some good, clear water.
Well, John, I'm curious about just for a patient that comes in, people have heard what you've had to say. They're they want to come in, what happens? I mean, what's the initial consultation look like?
Okay. So the first thing I want to do is find out if you are a candidate for chiropractic care. So we'll sit down and it'll be a private conversation, and I'll ask you, I'll ask you about your problem. I'll ask you when it started. I'll ask you who have you been to see? What did they do? I'll ask you what makes it better, what makes it worse. And then I'll dig into your past about, injuries, because, cause and effect. There's always a cause for every effect. And so if we dig long enough, we'll find it. And then, if it looks like you have a musculoskeletal problem that falls within chiropractic scope, then I'm going to suggest we do an exam. Now, the examination, I'm going to do range of motion, which means I'm going to have you turning this way and that way. I'm going to check all that. I'm going to check your nerve function, but that means your reflexes, the sensation. If you have any kind of numbness or tingling, I'm going to check the dermatome, we call it in the medical field. I'm going to check your muscle strength, because the strength of your muscles is affected by the nerve supply in your spine. And so we're going to do all that. And then we will, and of course, all that includes orthopedic neurological tests. And then we'll do x-rays. And we take x-rays, they're digital x-rays, and patients sometimes whip out their phone and take pictures of them, or we can email them to you or put them on a zip drive. We're state of the art.
Yep.
But we'll sit down and look at your x-rays, and then we'll talk together, John. Like I say, John, you're having this symptom, and your clinical findings are such and such, and now your x-ray correlates with that. It correlates with your symptoms. So reason and logic says, if we can open up those spaces and take pressure off the nerve, if we can realign that vertebra that's jammed, then your body's going to have a chance to heal, and you're going to get some symptom relief. And then if we stick with it, we're going to open that space so it's not a dangerous point to, we want to prevent reoccurrence. Too often people, they'll come for a few visits and they'll feel better, and then they'll get busy or life happens. And then a few weeks later, they'll be back. It came back. Well, it's like building a wall. One brick sits on top of the previous brick, and if you don't stay in behind it, at least for a little while, it will close back up. So, but that's what we do. So I found things on X-rays that others have missed, and I referred them out to medical doctors and so on and so forth. But we will put them on a program of care if they agree, and the program of care is going to be detailed or determined by their symptoms, how severe, what kind of trauma they've had, what level of arthritis they have. I have some people who have to come every day for the first week or two. And then, but most people can start off at, 3 times a week or something like that. I have had patients come in for wellness, and a wellness person, again, it depends on their goals. A wellness person, once they see their spine, they typically need to come once a week, and there's research that bears that out. Clinically, if you already have loss of the disc space, the medical profession has done the research, and you can measure it under a microscope. Within 2 weeks, you can see the arthritis of that disc get worse under a microscope in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So your arthritis is not just sitting there not doing something. That joint is closing up gradually, and it can be measured. So this happened to me years ago. I ran across this in chiropractic school, and I thought, wow, I've got injuries in my spine, football and everything else. I need to decide where my spine is and what I need to do to keep my spine healthy. So for me, I chose decades ago that I get adjusted once a week. And so you can look at my x-rays now and how they were years ago, and my spinal column has not closed up, which is huge, because most people will close up, and that's why people get shorter as they get older. And as they get shorter, they get slower and stiffer and weaker and sicker. And it's because there's gradual pressure on their on their electrical circuits. And so all the organs and glands and muscles are not getting the nutrition and supply they need, that kind of thing.
Got it. Folks, Dr. John Webster has been with us. He's the owner, director of the Roswell Health and Injury Center. John, this has been great. I can imagine there are some folks that would like to be in touch, so let's tell them how they can get in touch and learn more.
All right. Well, my office is located very close to North Fulton Hospital, Wellstar. I'm at the corner of Upper Hembry and Alpharetta Highway. The telephone number for the office is 770-442-3343. That's 770-442-3343. And my front desk will take your information, and like I said, we'll bring you to the office. We sit down and we talk about your condition, and then before any exam or X-rays are done, we discuss the financial part of the practice. So if you have insurance, my team will call and verify your insurance to see if you have a deductible, copay, co-insurance, and all of this is explained to you before any services are done. That way you know no surprises at the front desk. And if you don't have insurance, if you're private pay, we have affordable care plans for that as well.
Terrific. And the website's websterchiropractic.net.
Yes, sir.
Terrific. Dr. John Webster, thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Hey, folks, just a quick thought for you. If you're looking for a team building experience that doesn't involve getting out in the woods and potentially twisting ankles or breaking bones or mosquito bites, you know what I'm talking about. And it involves food, and I don't mean like beans on the campfire. I mean good food. Well, here you go. ANSCulinaryConcepts.com. Executive Chef Andrew Traub, he and his team have developed a team building exercise that is terrific. You come in and they walk you through cooking a meal together, you and your teammates. And it's just a great way to get to know each other in a different kind of format and something that's unexpected. So give him a call, 678-336-9196. Tell him we sent you, or if you want to find out more information first, go to asculinaryconcepts.com. And folks, just a quick reminder, North Fulton Business Radio, we're on show number 525, something like that. I mean, we just celebrated our 500th episode. We're, still can't believe that. We've only gotten this far because of your support. And the one way you've supported us is by sharing the show. When you've heard of great business leaders like John who do great work and their work deserves to be celebrated, and you know of folks that should hear the show, you've shared it. And if you would continue to do that, we would appreciate it. So for my guest, Dr. John Webster, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.